So welcome everyone. I am Paula James and I am joined here today by Carolyn Akinyemi. Welcome to you, Carolyn. Great to be with you.
Welcome. It's good to be here. Happy to be here.
So the title for today's conversation is 3 little known secrets about healing eczema. So how can you just talk a little bit about what got you interested in the whole topic of eczema in the first place?
Yes, I didn't come from a medical background at all and never thought I would be investigating health. But I had 4 children in less than 5 years, which is a big job. And every one of them developed chronic eczema. So I had 4 lots of emollients and steroids and developing allergies and everything that was going on. And it was overwhelming. And I'm doing everything the doctors are telling me to do, and it's still spreading. And
So
it's still
how old were you dealing with babies, toddlers,
babies,
elementary?
babies. I had them because I had them all in less than 5 years. My eldest was still 4 when I had my 4th child.
And it was when they were young like that they were having.
Yeah. All of them had it.
I don't have children myself, but I imagine that just must be heartbreaking to have these little babies that are in pain and trying to find solutions.
It really is. It really is. And one of my daughters was covered in eczema so bad, there was hardly anywhere on her body that she didn't have it. So she was very uncomfortable being held. Driving anywhere was a nightmare because of the car seats where it wraps them in their body. They get hot then, and then just cry the whole time, scream the whole time because the eczema is so uncomfortable. And I realized this is not working. It's like everything I'm doing, it is not working. And it was breaking my heart looking at them like that. And then when you go out as well, like you go out with your kids, you could just be in the supermarket and you see people pull their kids away from yours because they look at your child's skin. And it's like, no, they haven't got leprosy or something, you know, they literally just are, it's eczema, it's not catching. But it really hurts when you see people look at your kids like that. And you as a mum, everything in you wants to protect your child and you can't. You just don't know how to, and you're trying everything you're being told to do and nothing's working. And that's hard enough when you've got 1 child, but when you've got 4, and then all the allergies that develop with it, because once they're on that atopic march or the allergic march that develops when you've got eczema and all the atopic diseases, that's it. It's just you're just going, and they're developing their allergies and not even developing the same ones. So I ended up with 18 different food allergies. And let's say they're not even, I've got 2 allergic to soya, 2 not, 3 allergic to peanuts, 1 not. You know, it's just like an absolute nightmare of trying to manage everything.
Oh.
And then at one point, I just realized I'm going to have to try and figure out what's going on myself. I can't actually remember what brought me to that decision. It's just the overwhelming frustration of it all. I started to think I've got to try and figure this out myself. So I started looking into any kind of research document that I could find. Like Google Scholar became one of my best friends. I was on there all the time. And without having a medical background, I wasn't just checking one field. I didn't have in my mind what I thought it was. I was looking at everything. And I had a huge wall map on my huge piece of cardboard. And I'm writing everything on it. Every time I find something out, I'm writing it, right? And as I got more and more, I'm realizing, oh, actually, that's feeding into this and causing that to happen. Oh, and that's making that happen. Oh, and that's taking it back round to here. That's why we've got these loop systems and we keep flaring for no reason. And so I ended up with this whole spider web of all these different medical areas that are actually feeding into each other and keeping that disease state going.
Okay. Oh, what a journey for your family.
It was a very big journey, but it was a very helpful journey. As much as it's painful and frustrating and time consuming, it was so helpful because once I knew, I'm a very visual person. I actually like charts and spidergrams and things like that. So once I could see it, then I could then research what do I need to do to start breaking these connections, and I can heal my kids from the inside out rather than trying to treat it just topically.
So that's such, I mean, the first, well, so of course, the first thing that happened was you had children that were suffering and you wanted to help them. And then the next huge thing that happened was that mindset of, oh, I am responsible for doing this, because a lot of people just hand over to, well, it's the doctor. And if the doctors can't fix me, then it can't be fixed, right? This is just about aging, or it's just genetics, or it's just whatever. But you went a different way of, okay, I am responsible for, and I think that's such a healthy and freeing starting place, right? That the doctors are resources,
Yeah.
and they might or might not know something that's helpful in my specific situation. So I need to evaluate the input from the doctors and see whether or not it's helping.
Yeah.
And if it's not helping, I need to get information and suggestions from more resources so that I don't just keep trying something that's not working.
That's right. And I did have that mentality for a while. I'm following. It's like, okay, the doctor's responsible. They're the expert. They're going to tell me what to do. Until I realized this is just getting nowhere. I'm doing everything and it's not working. And the thing is, I always had the belief that my children could get healed.
Oh,
Even though I was told by the doctor. I mean, obviously, when you see a family sitting there as a doctor, you've got 4 kids who have all done the same thing. So I was told, you just have an atopic gene in your family. So I'm supposed to just accept that. I didn't want to accept that. I believe that every action starts with a thought. So my thoughts are very important when it comes to healing my kids. If I believe that we have an atopic gene and that's it, that's going to discourage me from making any effort to actually find out what's going on. But because I believed there must be a way to help my kids, I 100% believed that. And that's what propelled me to actually start investigating and looking in it. Because, you know, we're talking about thoughts. Really, whether you're religious or not, everybody has faith. If I sit on a chair, I've got faith that that chair is going to hold me up. I have got no logical proof. I didn't check it. If I get on a plane, I believe that that plane's going to get me from A to B. I didn't go and say, actually, can I check the pilot's credentials before we take off and make sure he's not drunk? So we all act in faith all the time. It's when you have no logical proof of something, but yet you believe it. As someone who had no medical training, no knowledge of eczema, I had no logical proof that my kids could be healed, but I believed it. I believed there had to be a way. And that's one of the most important secrets. We're talking about the 3 secrets. One of the most important secrets is your mindset. You have to believe it's possible. If you don't believe your healing is possible, you will not take the action necessary to even try to be healed, because what's the point?
so let me just jump in here for a moment and say one of the modalities I've trained in is the Feldenkrais method, and one of the things Moshe Feldenkrais said that made the most impression on me is that the really essential feature of being human is free will, and to be we're the beings that get to make choices, and to be in the realm of human choice, he said you need to have at least 3 options. If you only have 2, it's a dilemma. It's not really choosing. And so I think you could, even if you, because some people can have been suffering for so long, they might have sort of lost the belief that I can get better. So I just want to say this. You need 3 options. So one option might be, oh, it's genetic and I'm not getting better. Okay, that's one option. You can put it on the table.
Yeah.
Does it help you really to follow that option? Another option might be, well, I put myself in the hands of the doctors, and I trust what the experts tell me. And for many situations, right? If I get into a car accident, I don't want you to take me to somebody like me. I want you to take me to the hospital with those skills. And then a third option would be, there's something out there that the doctors don't know or aren't sharing with me. And if I look hard enough, I can find it, and it could make a difference. And so if things aren't getting better, just accepting they're not ever going to get better won't create a change. If you've already gone the doctor's route and it's not making a big enough difference, then it's time to at least explore the third option of, well, what could I find on my own? What is out there that would let me come at this situation from a different perspective, bringing in different tools, bringing in different approaches, and what might happen if I come from that different perspective. And so, I'm just really impressed that you went the route, not just the scattergun trying a bunch of things, or you might have done that, but what you also did was to get a really clear visual of, well, what are all the pieces that I am learning about? And, oh, how do they relate to each other?
Because I was one of those annoying kids growing up that always asked why. Everything my mum said, why? Yeah, but why? So my mum would be like, because it just is. But this is the same approach I had when it came to eczema. I would find something and, but why? And then that would lead me down a rabbit hole. And that's how this whole spider web came. But one of the things you're saying about the doctor is true. In a way, it's almost not fair to expect your doctor to have the answer. Because, doctors are not bad people. They go into the profession because they want to help people. I don't know whether it's the same in America as it is in the UK. We have the general practitioner who has the overview. And then he's got so many patients, he or she, they've got so many patients, they haven't got the time to go really in depth with each one. So they will often say, okay, you need to see a specialist. They will send you to a specialist. But the problem is my body didn't come in individual parts that were just hooked together, like a,
and then
remember the Spud man that you used to put the arms and the legs on and the face? That's not how we're created.
Right. And sometimes the problem with the specialists is they don't see how the parts relate to each other. They're very good at one part, but not how the whole influences the parts.
That's right. And so our body is not this disinterconnected thing. And one thing that's causing a problem could actually be in a different part from where it's manifesting, which is often the case in eczema. But in the process of discovering lots of things about eczema, I found out lots of things about other illnesses as well. So I realized it's not just eczema, it's just about every disease. Because if we develop disease, you could actually say that is your body communicating to you that it's at dis-ease.
Right.
So one of the things that you have to understand with it's kind of all linked with the mindset as well, is that eczema, when you go to your doctor, you show, I've got this rash on my hands or my elbows or wherever it's come up, and the doctor, that looks like eczema. That's not a diagnosis. You leave the doctor's surgery thinking, oh, I've been diagnosed with eczema. Is it a diagnosis? So it's like, here, I wrote it down earlier, the dictionary definition of eczema: a non-contagious inflammation of the skin characterized by redness, itching, and outbreaks of lesions that may ooze and then become crusty, scaly, and hardened. So that's what the doctor knows. He sees it on your skin. Did you get a diagnosis? No, you got a description. You got a label. But no one's actually investigated. Let me diagnose why you got this. Let me look inside. Let me find out what's going on the inside of your body to find out what's happening. Why is your body at disease? That's a diagnosis. So we have, in America alone, I think over 300 million people walking around thinking they've been diagnosed with eczema when they've actually been given a description and a label. This is the issue, is you've got to find out what's wrong. And until you find out what's wrong, you can't possibly know what to do to correct it.
Well, and it's a wonderful point you're making. I think a lot of the labels that we have that get held up as diagnoses are basically just a description in Latin.
They are.
Like they're not, there's not an explanation of what's the process that's creating that or how that process can be addressed. There's just a description of the trouble that you're in.
Yeah. And then going back to what you were saying before, you're teaching about responsibility. Whose responsibility really is it to find out what's wrong with you? If you think it's the government's responsibility or your doctor's responsibility, you are going to get let down. You are the only person who is going to value you and be with you for your whole life. So you have the responsibility. And if it's your children, no one's going to love your children more than you do. So you have to take it. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, you have to get outside of your comfort zone to kind of think, hang on, there might be some stuff that I'm not being told here, whether it's because they don't know or whether there's an ulterior motive, however you look at it, you've got to make an effort. It's not anybody else's responsibility, it's yours. And that's what I took on. These are my children. No one is going to look after them like I am. I'm with them all the time. I have to find out what's going on because I just can't live with this kind of amount of pain that they're in and just hold my hands up and say, oh, well, that's their lot in life.
Right.
I wasn't happy with that. And that, you know, the whole discovery process of eczema has just taught me so much more, not even just about eczema, but just about life in general. Just the whole thing of discovering how your mind works and how your mind affects your body, and, you know, accepting responsibility for decisions in life. That then spilled over into other areas of my life, not just eczema. So it's funny how when we learn and grow, it affects every area.
Wonderful. Okay. So is there anything more? This has already been pretty thorough and fantastic. Is there anything more you'd like to say about mindset? Because that's one of those you were going to tell us, right? 3 little known secrets. And so then the first one is mindset. Anything else that you'd like to say about that?
Only there was one of the things that we had a discussion about this before, but it's really worth sharing it. There's a really good book by Dr. Caroline Leaf called Switch on Your Brain. And she was talking about how the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's fake, which is why you can watch a scary movie and your body will release all the adrenaline and the hormones. And after you finish the movie, you can be shaking and you need something sugary to put your energy back, because your brain still reacts the same way. And so she was talking about some experiments that they did, proving that your thoughts can actually change the proteins that your brain makes. Now, bearing in mind, we are all made up of proteins, and our skin is proteins. So eczema, a big part of eczema is the failure of the skin proteins to make a healthy new skin barrier. Now, she had this, spoke about this account where scientists had bodybuilders, and they split the bodybuilders into 2 groups. And half of them they weren't allowed to exercise, but half of them were told, we want you to imagine exercising. We want you to imagine lifting those weights. We want you to imagine feeling the burn and pushing through the pain. And they did that for 3 weeks. And then they measured their body mass, their muscle mass. And all of the bodybuilders who had imagined lifting the weights had increased their muscle mass. They weren't allowed to lift any weights during that time, but they had created, their brain had created the proteins to build muscle mass, even though they were only imagining it and not actually doing it.
I find that amazing. I have heard similar studies about improving skills, like shooting basketballs or playing music with imagining, but this is the first one of actually changing muscle mass through intention alone, not actually lifting the weights.
Which opens a huge realm of possibilities in healing, but also shows you the importance of having the right mindset, because it can work conversely. If you really don't believe that healing is possible, your brain could be stopping you from creating the proteins that you need to create a healthy skin. Or whatever healing it is, whether that's arthritis or anything else. So, you know, it's like, I personally don't have the faith that if I do a bungee jump, that rope's going to hold me. So I'm not going to jump with a bungee jump. That's just not my thing. But similarly, if you don't believe that anything you try is going to work because you've had eczema so long, regardless of what you try, you can do your own healing.
Yeah.
So mindset is something that people often overlook the importance of it. It is incredibly important, the mindset. So that's the first, you know, people say, oh, it's 3 hidden secrets. Oh, mindset. No, mindset is so important. I cannot underestimate it. And then with the second one we were talking about was the responsibility, raising up and taking responsibility. And then the third one is people need to understand, when we were talking about that you're not having a diagnosis, you've got a description. What people don't understand is that eczema can involve, and often does, 8 different medical areas in the body. People think it's a skin disease, and when you go to your general practitioner, they'll refer you to a dermatologist. But there's 7 other areas, and the dermatologist isn't an expert in those. And even if they then say, okay, maybe you've got an allergy problem here, I'm going to refer you to an allergist as well. The allergist and the dermatologist very rarely talk to each other. So, and this is why I see, like in the eczema groups, when I've been in eczema groups, you see people arguing. They're often arguing, saying, oh, eczema is caused by parasites. And then somebody else will argue back and say, no, it's not. It's caused by toxins. And then somebody else says, no, it's not. It's caused by a leaky gut. And so no, you don't argue. You're all right. And this is what we're going on about the diagnosis. You've got to find out why you personally got eczema. Do you have a leaky gut, or do you have toxin exposure, or do you have a genetic problem? You know, it's like there's 8 different areas.
And I think it's that lack of understanding the complexity, the comprehensive nature of health or troubles that that can create a lot of troubles in those groups of people just saying, well, this worked for me. You must not be trying hard enough. You must be cheating. You must not be implementing the instructions fully because it worked for me. So then it should also work for you. But if one person's toxin exposure gets cleared up and that takes care of it, it doesn't mean that clearing up toxin exposure fixes someone else's leaky gut.
Yeah, they might not have had a problem with toxins. And this is, again, it goes back, then feeds back in. Even these 3 things we're talking about are feeding into each other, because if you have that mindset that it's this one issue, you get your hopes up when you hear someone's story. I mean, I did it as well with my kids. You hear a story, I'm going to try that. You get your hopes up that it's going to work, and then it doesn't. And so then you get disappointed again. So you're on this roller coaster of hope dashed. And that's why people can get worn out as eczema sufferers. They can get really worn out thinking that, where, I've had it for so long, what's going to work?
Right.
And that's mindset.
Or I've tried everything, even though, well, you've tried a lot of, and you might have tried a lot of things that are all addressing the same issue, right? You might have tried 100 things to address leaky gut, but not toxin exposure, not one of the other areas.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's where we have responsibilities, that you've got to find out what's going on the inside.
But I think also what I love about what you're saying, because this is one of the points that I make frequently to people that are having physical pain, is, well, you need to solve the problem that you have. And so just like you're saying, one person's problem might be toxins, another person's problem might be leaky gut. And with movement issues, with joint issues, with any of those things, you need to solve the problem you have. And that's can be one of the limitations, I think, about going the mainstream medical approach, is that they're wonderful at some things, and they don't necessarily acknowledge that they're only good at some things, and there's a lot of other possibilities out there. And so the piece that I bring in is helping people improve their alignment and the coordination of their movement so that they're using the whole body better. And if your problems are generated by your crummy movement habits, then that will work great for you. But if your problems are generated by something else, then that approach, it's going to help you a little bit with taking ownership, and you will improve some things for sure, because upright posture and well-coordinated movement help with everything, but it's not necessarily going to get at the root. And so one of the taking responsibility pieces, I think, has to be, well, I think I have tried this approach long enough. Now I need to go and see what else it could be and what other forms of treatment I might try, because if this approach was going to work, I probably would have seen some good results by now. And I think that will be up to individuals to determine where that line is. But then I need to continue looking, and I need to look in some fresh areas, some fresh topics. I think that has to be a piece of it as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And our body is hardwired to heal. That's why when you cut yourself, it knits back together again. But we have to give it the environment to heal. And unfortunately, the emergency services are wonderful, save loads of people's lives. But when it comes to chronic disease, and we're treating it with pharmaceutical drugs, those things can then have side effects, which are then poisoning the body and compounding the problem. And it's like you're saying with pain. I remember a few years ago, it was a long time ago actually, I had really bad knee pain, chronic knee pain, and I'm being sent to physiotherapists and, you know, all kinds of things, having massage, all different things that they're trying to do. And then one day I read an article about having flat feet. I thought, oh yeah, my feet collapsed when I was heavily pregnant. The arches of my feet, they collapsed and turned in. And I knew it had happened, but they were talking about when your legs are out of alignment, that's going to put your knees and your hips out of alignment. So I said to the physiotherapist, do you think this could have anything to do with me having flat feet? And he was like, nah, it's nothing to do with that. I said, is there anything you can do just to test it? So he said, well, I could bind up your feet actually with bandages to make an arch, just to test it for 24 hours. So I said, okay. So he put it, and I'm not joking, I only had them on for like 2 hours and all the pain was gone. And I had been having physio for months, and all it was my flat feet. And there was another one where I had bursitis in my hip. And again, same thing. I've had steroid injections into my hip, nothing working. And then through my research on the eczema, I had discovered that there's a thing called molecular mimicry, where your body can make an antibody against food, and the protein is similar to your body tissue. So when you're eating that food, your antibodies are not only going to attack the food, they're going to attack your body tissue with the similar protein structure. And one of the most common ones they were saying this is like bursitis, arthritis symptoms. One of the most common ones for that is the nightshades, tomatoes, sweet peppers, aubergines, all those. And I love those. I ate them all the time. I thought, I wonder if it'll make a difference. So after years of physio, steroid injections, this had gone on for probably 2 years. I cut out the nightshades out of my diet. Within about 3 days, all the pain was gone.
Wow.
So there's a whole realm of modalities of healing that when we just on that path of go to the doctor, get the prescription, you're missing it. You're missing the possibilities of your healing.
Well, so I'm loving a lot of what you're sharing here. So one is the mindset that you need to believe that there's something that will work and you can find it. Yeah. And then you have the responsibility to go looking, but also to implement, because I know a lot of people who say, well, I don't want to change. Well, I like eating tomatoes. I don't want to take that. I would never take them out. Well, okay, but then you have a choice between eating this item and having the joint pain, or not eating the item and not having the joint pain. So then you got the responsibility to do the research, and you've also got the responsibility to make changes. Because I hear that from people too about movement. Is basically, I don't want to change anything. I just don't want to hurt while I continue doing what I'm doing. Well, I can't do that. I can make some pretty good educated guesses as to what movement kinds of things you're doing that contributes to your trouble and what else you could do. But how you can continue doing stupid things and not hurt, I don't have that one.
Yeah, no, it's not an option.
Not an option. Okay, and so we got mindset and responsibility, and then the third one.
Knowing that it involves 8 different medical areas. And although it will start in one, because of the way eczema works, your body will adapt. If something is wrong in your body, it will adapt somewhere to try to compensate. So once you've got one of these issues that's developed eczema, you very quickly start to develop these other legs of what I call the eczema spider. It's like these 8 legs of the eczema spider, and they're all making a spider web that entangles you up. So if you've got a broken skin barrier, dermatology issue, you're very quickly going to get things infiltrating into your skin, which is going to set off an immunology or an allergy issue. And then there's all kinds of things going on. And we've got something, was it toxins? Is it parasites? You've got all these other issues on the other legs. So it's very, very important to find out what it is. And you have to be committed to yourself that you will make the changes that are necessary for you to get healed. Again, that's part of mindset. And part of that is this abdication of responsibility, that we would rather somebody else look after us rather than take responsibility for ourselves. But you know, as you said, that's part of being human, making the decision that I'm going to do what is right for me. I'm going to look after me. Nobody else is going to look after me. I have to take responsibility for that. And that does involve getting out of your comfort zone and making some changes. But you find when you change, like happened with me, it doesn't just affect your health, it affects every other area of your life as well.
Well,
Don't be surprised if you say, I'm going to really become disciplined in making some lifestyle changes for my health, and you become more prosperous at work because it overflows into that area.
Well, the point that Moshe Feldenkrais made is that when you start behaving that way, right, becoming aware, looking for options, implementing them, what it does is increase your human dignity.
Yes, absolutely.
And then that's going to flow over into every area of your life, because you're a more responsible person with a greater dignity, and then you bring that to anything that you do.
Absolutely. And then as well, when you understand that it's got the 8 medical areas, then you're not entering into arguments with other people. You can be more supportive of other people. It's just like, okay, yeah, I can hear that work for you, and that's great. Or you could try this, but it might not be your area of eczema.
Right.
Might not be what's causing yours, but this is an option. But I developed a very helpful tool for eczema sufferers. It's just a simple quiz that you can go through. Because of all the research I did, I've got a series of 10 questions. And if you go through the 10 questions, it actually can highlight one of the hidden areas that's driving eczema on, one of the main ones actually, that's driving eczema on the inside of your body. So it's actually a very useful tool for eczema sufferers to go through. So
okay, so wait a minute. So I put the link for the quiz in the description of the conversation today, and also in the first comment for those of you watching this on Facebook. So that the quiz is free, right? They just have to click the link and they go right to the quiz. And then you're saying that the quiz is not just for you to get market research information about people, but it will actually help them get some starting direction on which of those 8 areas is probably contributing to their eczema. Is that?
Yes, obviously it's not a formal medical diagnosis. I'm not a doctor, I just educate people on eczema. But I developed the quiz from this spiderweb map. So I can kind of see if you've answered these questions in this way, it's very likely that you've come from that. This is what's caused it, or this is what's driving it on the inside.
So the quiz actually can be a shortcut for people getting started on, well, where in the spider web should I begin?
Yeah, absolutely. And then depending on your outcome, you'll have a video that will give you a bit of teaching on that leg. And then anyone who goes through that quiz, I'm actually gifting them as well the first module of the course I developed, so they can have that free. I'm not even asking people, you know, some people they'll give something free and you have to put your credit card in and then cancel it afterwards. You don't need to do any of that. It literally just is free. It's just there once you go through the.
So the quiz sounds absolutely fantastic, and I put the link there in 2 places. And then tell us a little bit about the course that you've developed, and what will they find, especially in that first module? Okay,
so the first module, we do talk about mindset and beliefs and what you really need to know, busting some of the biggest myths about eczema, things that you really do need to understand in order for you to go forward in the healing process. The course is called Eczema Decoded, which is kind of what I saw it as, that I was decoding what was going on inside of your body. So we go through each one of those 8 spider legs. So there's 8 modules of teaching, and go through each one of those spider web legs and systematically look at how this is involved in eczema, and then what you can do to break the spider web strands that are being made by that leg.
Okay.
So it's a whole holistic approach, so that you can actually, that's what I did with my kids. I attacked it from all different angles, not just dermatology. So we have to attack this at every angle. I'm going to cut them out of this spider web and get them free from it.
What a great image. So I know everybody's different, and you're not a doctor and you can't diagnose and you can't make promises, but on average, or with your own children, once you have identified the bits of the spider web that are causing trouble and begun making changes there, how long does it take for someone with eczema to begin to notice changes in the quality of their skin?
It can be very quick because your skin tends to be the new skin that you make can come to the surface within about 45 days.
Okay.
So if you're making changes, and it does depend on how quickly people action it. One of the clients I had is a sales professional, and his job involved him being on camera to make sales. And his eczema was so bad that he couldn't even get on camera. Even when he came on camera with me, he said, I'm so embarrassed I can't be on camera. This is affecting his earning ability seriously.
Right.
So, you know, I said, that's fine. He started going through the program, and because it was affecting his work, literally everything I taught him, he did straight away. In 6 weeks, he says to me, I'm outside in shorts and a t-shirt. In just 6 weeks. And this man had been injecting himself every 2 weeks. He said just about every drug that could have been prescribed, he was being prescribed. And he'd had it for years.
Right. And that's, you know, like 6 weeks can sound like a long time, but if you're talking about years of suffering and trying things that don't
that's
work,
no time
6
at
weeks
all.
is a blink to be out of trouble.
Yeah. But it does depend. Some people, there's things that you might need to action that might cost some money.
Right.
If you can't do that, it's important to start. You know, it's like I say to people, all the animals got into the ark. The cheetah went fast, the turtle went slow, but they all got in. They all made it in the end. So it's like you're on your journey. Don't say, oh, I can't do this. Start.
Well, I think too, the point that I love that you brought up is that the body is always moving toward health and wholeness, and it's doing its best to keep you alive and able to move around in the world. So I hear a lot from folks who have taken the attitude of, oh, my body has let me down, or my body has betrayed me, or my body has given out. But if you begin giving it any little bit of help and support, it would be interesting to see, even if you don't have the funding to make all the changes, what can your body begin to do with those little bits of good building blocks, or just taking away some of the irritants? And you might be surprised at the relief that you can get in the system just by taking away some of the problems and bringing in some of the supports. It might not fix everything, and it might not go as quickly, but you might start finding that your stamina gets better, your earning potential gets better, something so that you're gradually able to bring in the remaining pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the changes, you get big results from small changes. One client I was working with, it was when we went through toxins, because he kept having random flares for no reason. We went through toxins, and one of the things I mentioned was the toxins that come out of the plug-in air fresheners. And he had a light bulb moment. It's like, I use them at home. So he got rid of those, and those random flares stopped.
So that wasn't even something he needed to invest in. It was just something
That was something to stop buying.
Stop buying. So that became even cheaper.
Exactly. So they're not all like, you know, big things. It's education and knowing. And as you go through and you see, that's why I kind of advertise the program, is like, discover why you got it and how you got trapped in it, and what you need to do about it. And it is, if you have to go through the program, do what you can, and then go back to the beginning and then do more what you can, it's like, at least you're improving. Because the problem is, like you're saying about choices, you've got a choice of stay where you are, you've got a choice of move forward. But staying where you are isn't staying where you are. When you've got a chronic disease, you have rampant inflammation that's going on in your body. And the longer you leave it, the more it starts to affect other places in your body. And so you need to stop eczema because you don't want to develop anything else. Not just, there's also that you got the added thing of the drugs causing side effects as well, but just the rampant inflammation can trigger other things as well. So you have to start, you have to say enough is enough. I've got to step off this road. It just flipped then. I don't know what you heard. It just
I think there's something going on with my connection here. Carolyn, this is a fantastic conversation. I'm so glad that you're spending a little time with me and making this available to my audience, because it's just exactly the same approach of, you need to be aware, you need to do some investigating, you need to implement some things, and then be aware of how that is affecting the whole. And this is your body, your health, your life. What choices are you making to make more choices and options available to yourself, or what choices are you making that start a collapse and then things just get harder and smaller?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that as people are unwilling or it's their fault. It's just if you're in a tough situation, well, reach out for, I mean, if you're in a tough situation with skin, one of the great places to start is that free resource that Carolyn has given, which is that quiz to help you begin to get a handle on, well, where might be a good place for you to start paying
Yeah.
attention, learning, implementing a few changes, and see what you get from there.
Yeah.
But I just love that you're looking at it so holistically, all these different areas, because I think what people tend to do is to get started in one direction and keep trying more and investing more and more treatments in an area that's not yielding any real benefit or result for them.
That's right. And that's one of the things I say as well, is that, you know, we can learn and learn and learn and learn, but unless we implement what we're learning, it's not really going to benefit us.
Right.
So that's why I've structured it so that, okay, let's learn about this module, and then here's some action points that you can actually take to address that leg. So it's not like go through this whole thing and then at the end I'll tell you some things. So you're making changes constantly as you go through.
Okay. And then because they all feed into each other, even if that's not your primary area of concern, you'll quit adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
Okay.
Very true. Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. Is anything else that any other point that you'd like to make, any other resource you'd like to reference here before we wrap up?
No, the most important thing I think for your audience is to go through the quiz. If they're suffering from eczema, go through that quiz and get the 3 resources, because it's like you don't really want to go and do all the research that I did. It took me a long time to do all that research, and now that I've formalized it all and put it all together, it's much easier for somebody else to just come and read it and listen to it and pick it up.
So I'm so glad you say that. A little side story. I have invested a bunch of money in taking classes about using my cell phone to take pictures of myself so that I can put photos up in my business promotion. And a friend of a friend recently was looking for a photographer to take some business pictures of her. And you know what? She didn't want to spend all those hours trying things and taking classes and watching YouTube videos about poses. And so it was very worthwhile for her to pay me some money to come and just tell her, no, don't sit like that, sit like this. Okay, what is it you're trying? Okay, then let's do this. And so it only took her the hour and a half that we took pictures for me to say, okay, try this, try this, try this. And then at the end, she liked the pictures she had and she didn't have to go do all that research. And so if you are, if you're low in funds, then you might need to be doing some of the research on your own. If you can't find anybody who knows something, you need to do the research on your own. But if you're looking at the amount that it costs to have a very well-organized course by somebody who has done very thorough research and gotten all 4 of her children out of trouble, then there's the money that you have and there's the time it would take for you to start from scratch and do that. And so so it could be a very worthwhile investment and really open up. Like, I love how you're drawing the connection here, that it wouldn't just be making your skin look better or feel more comfortable, but taking stress off your body so that you don't end up with immune issues later or other health issues later. You could just be getting yourself a really nice, balanced, harmonious approach to how you're caring for yourself day to day, so that you could probably avoid, you can't avoid everything, but you can set yourself on a path to have more resilience and a greater cushion, so that any challenges you face later on are smaller rather than knock you down kind of things.
Yeah. And because I don't want anybody to feel like I can't access this information, so I also have everything in a book. So different people learn different ways. Some people like to hear, some people like to read. So there's different ways. So you could have the course, you could buy the book. There's a pay by module on the course if you don't have the money to pay everything up front. So I'm trying to open it up so that everybody can have access to the information, regardless
Oh,
of what their financial state is like.
that is so generous of you, because people with chronic illness often, it's been going on for a while, and
Spending
it
so much
has
money on, yeah,
impacted their ability to earn for quite a while.
yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So for anybody listening, I really encourage you to start with the quiz, and that will give you a little bit of direction on which modules, which areas of implementation might be most meaningful for you, might get you the most bang for your buck as you put in a little effort and get some results. And Carolyn Akanyemi, thank you so much for your time. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I hope
Really
people
enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me on.
Wonderful. Okay, so we will close here. I really encourage you to take her quiz, and it sounds like even if you don't have eczema, it would be a great quiz to take, and it would be a great book to look into, just to get yourself proactively taking care of things that could become troubles.
Well, it's true, because a lot of the modules, they would be implicated in some other diseases as well. So we've got some that are obviously specifically to eczema, and I do talk about how things affect eczema. But when you're looking at toxins, gut issues, parasites, all different things like that, they can affect many, many diseases.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for your time, and I encourage everyone to start with the quiz.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.